Tonight on First at 9, this Tuesday, the 4th of June 2024. Inclement weather. Heavy rains to ease in the coming days, says the Met Department, but over 100,000 still affected island-wide due to adverse weather. Postpone. Opposition leader proposes to postpone the debate on electricity reform bill to study Supreme Court determination. But Power Minister insists to proceed. Without fail. Sri Lanka must not fail IMF trust. Economic transformation bill is to win bilateral trust, says President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Halted projects. Government to allocate funds to complete 58 large-scale development projects within the year.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9 with Indivadi Amuwata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very warm welcome. You're joining us once again on your primetime English news service here at Derana 24. Once again, we have your developing stories. The weather in Sri Lanka and the disaster situation continues to be our top story. But tonight, again, we have reports of the number of deaths caused due to extreme weather. We start off with the top story. The death toll of the extreme weather in Sri Lanka during the past 72 hours has increased to 17, with the remains of a missing person in the Pugoda area found today. The total number of lives lost during the southwest monsoon now stands at 26. State Minister of Defence and Disaster Management Pramitha Bandarathenakone says that over 130,000 people across 23 districts are affected by torrential rains covering Sri Lanka. However, the Met Department forecasts a slight reduction in the rainfall starting today.
Water levels of several rivers in the southwestern part of Sri Lanka remain at flood levels as a result of the persistent downpour from the southwestern monsoon. Several low-lying areas surrounding the river Kalani, including Bandaravatta and Sedavatta, have been inundated. The city of Gampaha is still flooded due to the high water levels of the Attanagalu Oya. Overflow from the river also disrupted traffic on the Colombo-Kurunagala road. Water level of the Ging River in the Baddagama area rose to major flood levels, submerging the surrounding low-lying area. The Baddagama, Hikkaduwa and Baddagama-Nagara roads were also inundated. High water levels of River Kalu resulted in flooding at a number of localities belonging to the Kalutara and Dodangara divisional secretariats. Water from the River Nilwala was seen spilling over the flood protection embankment in the Malimbada area. Overflow from the river has affected several areas in the Malimbada, Tihagoda and Mathura divisional secretariats. The remains of a person reported missing were recovered yesterday in the Pugoda area, bringing the number of lives lost to extreme weather during the past 72 hours to 17. During Parliament today, State Minister of Defence and Disaster Management Pramitha Bandarathenakone commented on the situation of the people affected by the adverse weather.
As a result of the torrential rains, 130,021 people belonging to 33,422 families in 262 divisional secretariats across 234 districts are affected. 26 people have died while 41 others are injured. As of this morning, 9,248 people belonging to 2,368 families are temporarily housed at 116 relief centres.
The Cabinet of Ministers yesterday granted approval to several proposals pertaining to the provision of relief to those affected by the extreme weather. Among them was a proposal submitted by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena to restore public infrastructure damaged by extreme weather with the services of the Tri-Forces and the Civil Defence Force. The Cabinet also approved proposals submitted by President Ranil Wickremesinghe related to the damages caused by flooding in the Kolonnava area. The proposals include supplying food and other essential services to residents of the area, removing illegal constructions which caused flooding, stopping land fillings and renovating the area's drainage system, identifying underlying causes of the flooding and appointing a committee to prepare a development plan to redesign the town of Kolonnava. Meanwhile, during the Cabinet media briefing today, Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Bandula Gunawardena stated that funds allocated via the 2024 budget for non-essential purposes will be utilised for relief programmes. In view of the prevailing heavy weather, the National Building Research Organisation issued landslide early warnings to several districts. Notably, Level 3 evacuation warnings have been issued for the several areas in the Ratnapura and Kalutara districts. The Department of Meteorology meanwhile forecasts a temporary abatement in the downpours affecting the southwestern part of the island starting today.
Today we expect the rainfall to decrease compared to the previous few days. However, slight rains might occur at some places in the western, Sabaragamu and southern provinces. We expect these conditions to continue until the 8th of June, when the rainfall is once again expected to show a slight increase.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
ජීවිතේ හැම තැනකදීම ස්මාර්ට් වෙන්න පොලිය විතරක් ගෙවාගෙන යන්න CDB Smart Draft.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe assures that Sri Lanka will achieve an economic growth rate of 5% and reduce extreme poverty by year 2027. Addressing an event to grant freehold land titles, President Wickremesinghe went on to highlight the importance of meeting economic targets set out in the IMF agreement to maintain the country's economic stability, stating that deviating from these targets would set the country back. The head of state also highlighted the opposition's refusal to take responsibility and their reliance on traditional politics and called for unity to advance the country's progress.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the Urume Freehold Deeds and Rice Distribution Programme in Karavanalla today. As part of the Urume program, 350 freehold deeds were distributed in the Kegol district and 800 low-income families received 10 kilos of rice each in the second phase of the rice distribution program.
We anticipate that the country's economy will achieve a 5% growth by 2027. We aim to further increase economic growth to 8% after 2027. We are committed to reducing unemployment to 5% by 2025 and generate employment income streams. Additionally, multidimensional poverty is anticipated to be reduced to 25% by 2027 and to 10% by 2035. The IMF agreed to provide their support for our efforts to revitalize the economy following our public commitment to this cause. Further, the nations that provide us financial assistance are also working to ease our debts. However, it is essential that we act accordingly. If not, we will be left behind because Sri Lanka is well known for not keeping our promises. As a result of these discussions, all agreements have been incorporated into the Economic Transformation Bill, which has been formally presented to the Parliament. All our economic targets have been legalized. The countries that have provided us with financial assistance are reassured by our dedication to this program. Nothing can be changed. Whatever we do, we have to do it within this framework. To the opposition, I say that you turned against us because you couldn't handle the responsibilities and continue to engage in traditional politics. However, I request everyone to unite together towards achieving this goal.
The government has decided to give financial space to bring in the necessary funds to complete 58 large-scale projects that have completed 80% of its construction. The decision was taken after observing a report presented by the Department of Project Management and Supervision. Commenting in this regard, Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said, following the debt restructuring process, all suspended projects will resume with immediate effect.
According to a report presented to the Cabinet by the Department of Project Management and Supervision, 171 large-scale development projects are to be implemented in 2024. Except for 9 projects, all the remaining projects are scheduled to be completed by the end of 2026. After observing the report, the government has decided to provide financial space for new capital projects to complete 58 projects with more than 80% physical progress by now within the year 2024. Suspended projects due to a lack of sufficient funds are subject to further study.
As we know, most development projects were started with foreign loans or grants. Because we have not repaid those loans, the creditor nations and institutes have stopped funding us. After observing the report, the Cabinet Ministers approved the decision to complete 58 projects within this year and to complete 162 projects out of 171 by 2026. Also, the President informed us that all halted projects will be resumed following the completion of the debt restructuring process.
Now, the government of Sri Lanka has also decided to establish a single entity to facilitate the growth of small and medium-scale enterprises. The new entity, called Enterprise Sri Lanka, will focus on restructuring the institutional and legal frameworks of several existing organizations, including the Export Development Board. Cabinet approval was granted to a joint proposal submitted by the President and the Minister of Industries in recognition of the need for a consolidated agency to monitor and develop SMEs more effectively. With that, here's a look at some Cabinet decisions taken during the week.
The Cabinet has decided to remove the requirement of an import control license for 6 types of grain with a view to eradicate illegal trading activities, prevent unfair increase in retail prices, ensure an affordable price for consumers, and to protect the domestic producer by imposing appropriate tax rates and quarantine methods. Accordingly, the requirement of obtaining an import control license for the import of mung beans, black grams, cowpea, finger millet, soy flour and peanuts will be removed, and necessary measures will be taken to protect local producers based on the recommendations of the Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation Industries. Meanwhile, in order to achieve a transformative change in Sri Lankan education under the National Education Policy Framework 2023-2033, the Cabinet says it approved a proposal by the Minister of Education to take necessary steps to establish an appropriate administrative structure for the efficient and effective implementation of education reforms. Under the program, it has been decided to classify schools according to international standards and to establish 9 educational reform units for the 9 provinces. Also, the number of zonal education officers will increase from 100 to 122, and the entire school system will be grouped into 1,220 school clusters, with 1 or more selected secondary schools designated as leading schools. Also, it has been decided to establish a proposed institution named Enterprise Sri Lanka as an entity dedicated to small and medium-scale entrepreneurship. The institute will be established through the redesign of the institutional and legal frameworks of the Export Development Board, the National Entrepreneurship Development Authority, the Industrial Development Board, the Sri Lanka Export Credit Insurance Corporation, and the Small Enterprise Development Division of the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs. The legal draftsmen have been advised to formulate a draft bill in relation to the decision.
The Sri Lankan government is also looking at partnerships to help train athletes for the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. The Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs plan to implement a joint program to develop skills of Sri Lankan sportspersons. Government calls for collaborations with the private sector and civil society to carry out the program. Cabinet approval was also granted for a proposal to seek a public-private partnership, and it is expected to provide opportunities for talented athletes to participate in the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. And in Parliament, Opposition Leader Sajith Premadasa says that the debate on the new electricity reform bill should be postponed to further study amendments that have been recommended by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court determined that several clauses of the proposed Sri Lanka electricity bill are inconsistent with the Constitution. Commenting on the determination, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara said that the ministry accepts all amendments suggested by the Supreme Court determination on the electricity bill. Accordingly, the amendments as suggested by the Supreme Court will be moved during the committee stage for approval.
As you can see, there are several amendments to be made, and it is impossible to address all of them during today's Oversight Committee meeting. Therefore, I request that you take up these issues during the next Oversight Committee meeting tomorrow. We can reach a final decision tomorrow. There is no need to rush this. There are a lot of issues in this bill. There are 23,000 workers employed in the Ceylon Electricity Board, and the CEB is expected to be divided into 12 entities. What will happen to all these employees in this situation? This is not a joke.
There are some serious issues pertaining to the electricity bill. This is why it is necessary to go for a majority of 2/3. However, we all know that the government does not have a 2/3 vote. I would like to suggest that without bringing this up for discussion on Thursday, let's consider the shortcomings of this bill and review recommendations by the Supreme Court prior to reaching a decision in the coming days. The evaluation presented by the Supreme Court was falsely interpreted interpreted. The court decision states that despite the bill not being in accordance with the constitution, it can still be passed in parliament by amending it. Also, I do not know why MP Kiriyalla is talking about the sale of the CEB. These are amendments that are also presented in the blueprint of the SJB. Through a manifesto, you have promised to implement these measures following the presidential election, but now object when we are trying to implement them. As the government, we are ready for the debate on June 6th and to take the vote as well. Do not worry about the number of votes for the government.
Blueprint එකේ කිසිම තැනක
There hasn't been any discussion in our blueprint about selling.
දෙයක් නැහැ.
මෙතන ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය දීපු මඟ
We do not object if the bill is passed with amendments required by the Supreme Court. But it will not be done properly within this week. Go for the debate. We do not object to that.
නෑ. ඒ විවාදය ගන්න ඒකට එකගයි. අපේ අමතුමාගේ
We can identify why the minister is rushing. We are in favor of passing the bill, but let's solve these issues first.
බේරගම්මු. අපි ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය ලබා දෙන
The Supreme Court has given a verdict. As the Ministry of Power and Energy, we are acting in accordance with that. If something is happening apart from that, then we will resubmit it.
විදියට නැවත වතාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා අපි එන්න. මේ පනත සම්මත වුණාම
Consumers will benefit if this bill is passed. The opposition is trying to prevent that. As the government, we have to pass this bill soon and bring more competition to the market.
සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ බ්ලූප්‍රින්ට්
We accept the fact that in the SJB blueprint, we have mentioned these reforms. We do not disagree to that. We are not like frogs in a well.
යුගයේ ජීවත් වෙන මිනිස්සු නෙමෙයි. ඔබතුමා අත්තර කියන එක හරියි.
You are right. We as a country will not move forward with the mentality of frogs in a well. However, your leader, the leader of the opposition, is not ready to accept it.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා ඒක පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ. 6 වෙනිදා දැන් මේකට විවාදෙට දින
We are ready to take this to debate on June 6th. As far as I know, the opposition leader does not have any other work. It is understandable if he wants time to prepare for the debate with the NPP. He is avoiding the NPP debate, the electricity debate, and the presidential debate.
විවාදුරුත් මග ඇරලා තියෙන්නේ ජනාධිපතිවරු විවාදුරුත් මග ඇරලා තියෙන්නේ.
සේමසිංහ ගරු අමාත්‍යතුමා
Minister Shayan Semsingha mentioned the mindset of a frog in a well. What I see is that when you were with Mahinda Rajapaksa, you were in a well. But with Ranil Wickremesinghe, you are out of it.
ලින්දෙන් ගොඩ වගේ තමයි මට පේන්නේ.
මේ එතුමාගේ සුපුරුදු
The issues in this country will not go away because of the usual insults. We should change if we have to. We must learn from our past mistakes. We are now facing the consequences of not doing the right thing.
නිවැරදි වෙලාවට නොකිරීමේ විපාක තමයි අපි
Meanwhile, the electricity tariff revision proposal for July is to be submitted to the Public Utilities Commission this week. The decision to submit the proposal has been taken during a meeting held with the officials of the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Ministry of Power and Energy, Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara yesterday. The proposal is being submitted according to a government policy decision taken last year to implement a cost-reflective tariff mechanism that will be subjected to revision quarterly. Domestic gas suppliers, both state-run Litro Gas Lanka and privately owned Laughs Gas plc, announced revisions to its gas cylinder prices. The price revision is in effect from midnight tonight. The decision comes after Supetco, Lanka Indian Oil and Sinopec fuel stations revised fuel prices for the month.
According to the latest domestic gas price revision, a 12.5 kilogram Litro cylinder will be reduced by 150 rupees to 3,790 rupees. The price of a 5 kilogram Litro gas cylinder will be 1,522 rupees with a price reduction of 60 rupees. A 2.3 kilogram Litro cylinder will be reduced by 28 rupees to 712 rupees. Issuing a statement, Litro Gas Lanka stated that prices were slashed in order to provide relief to the public in view of the existing challenging time period. Meanwhile, Laughs Gas plc also decided to slash domestic gas prices effective midnight tonight. The price of a 12.5 kilogram Laughs gas cylinder will be reduced by 160 rupees to 3,680 rupees. The new retail price of a 5 kilogram Laughs gas cylinder will be 1,477 rupees with a price reduction of 65 rupees. Speaking further, Cluster CEO of Laughs Gas PLC, Dr. Niroshan J. Pires, said the downward revision comes as a result of the reduction of global LPG prices.
The main reason behind this is the CP price has come down effective for the month of June, as well as the interest rates have come down. So these positives we are transferring it to customers for both industrial as well as households.
Welcome back. We take you to your business news now. At the Colombo Stock Exchange, trading closed in green despite a low investor participation. The broader all-share price index closed at 12,104, gaining 53.96 points, while the more liquid S&P SL 20 closed at 3,569, up 15.96 points. Conglomerates Smells the Corp PLC, Aitken Spence, LOLC Holdings contributed the most to the index. High net worth and institutional investor participation were noted in Nations Trust Bank. Dipped products saw the most active volumes traded, and the share closed up 34.9. The food, beverage and tobacco sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while the sector index gained 0.63%. The capital goods sector was the second highest contributor to market turnover, while the sector index increased 0.22%. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Now, the Sri Lankan rupee closed weaker at 302 rupees and 10 cents to 302 rupees and 20 cents against the US dollar today. Here's a look at how the rupee traded against other currencies as well. In corporate news, Chairperson of LB Finance PLC, JRD Prasanna, assured that the company will prioritize recognizing the importance of environmental sustainability and social responsibility, while assuring that such initiatives will be embedded in their operations. With that, here's a look at more corporate news in brief.
The chairman of LB Finance PLC, JRD Prasanna, says that the company will continue to invest in technology, prioritize consumer-centric initiatives and foster talent development, delivering increased value to the stakeholders. In its annual report released today, Prasanna also said that the company will prioritize recognizing the importance of environmental sustainability and social responsibility and ensure that such initiatives will be embedded in their operations. The chairperson further stated that the recent establishment of a dedicated board sustainability committee formalizes their commitment to these values. Millennium IT ESP, a local information technology company, via its Singapore subsidiary in collaboration with Veritas Technologies LLC and Oracle MySQL, hosted the CIO Conclave 2024 in Singapore recently. The CIO Conclave 2024 focused on navigating the new normal with advanced data management and analytics. The event, which brought together over 30 chief information officers from a variety of industries, provided a platform for networking and relationship building for CIOs within the global information technology space and across industries. Also in corporate, CIC Holdings PLC recorded robust revenue growth amid moderately stable macroeconomic conditions, reporting notable top-line growth during the year ended 31st of March 2024. CIC recorded a consolidated group revenue of 76.4 billion rupees, marking an increase of 11.9% over last year. During the period in review, key group businesses under the 5 industry sectors, crop solutions, agri-produce, livestock solutions, industrial solutions and health or personal care performed resiliently.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. I'm Indivari Amwat. Good night.